Good evening, everybody. My name is Wolfgang Croskey. I'm the CEO of the Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce, and this is our final episode here in our Canada interview series. We have the opportunity to interview our current city mayor here in Pittsburgh, who is running for re-election. It's important to note in Pittsburgh that we have a rotating mayor, so it's really running for re-election for our city council, but he does hold that title now. So I want to introduce to you Mayor Juan Banales. He is a lifelong resident here in Pittsburgh and has been on the council for a while. So we're going to ask him a couple questions. But with that, Mayor, if you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Absolutely. So I'm Juan Banales, as you said. I've had the honor and privilege to serve as your council member for the past 8 years, and also as your mayor both in 2019 and currently this year. It has been a privilege to do so. I was born and raised here in Pittsburgh, and have spent a lot of time here. Went away for a few years to get my undergraduate degree at UC Berkeley, then came back and was fortunate enough to find a job here locally and live and work here in Pittsburgh for the past 11 years. It's been very rewarding to do so. And I've always wanted to give back to my community as well. Hence why, just from the early days, wanted to volunteer on the Planning Commission, right? And then sought election in 2016 and then re-election in 2020. A little bit about myself on the private side or personal side. I got married in 2019 to my high school sweetheart. Well,
that should get you some votes right there. I mean, this high school love story.
Yeah, and so we obviously live here in town, and we love Pittsburgh, and hopefully one day we can raise our family here as well.
Nice. So you've been in council for a while. You did Planning Commission. What do you think, just jump right into it, greatest accomplishment so far while you've been on council?
Absolutely. I guess I'll say one that I'm extremely proud of, right? And I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain the context because it's a little bit
That's
complicated. Fine. So I'm a numbers guy. I like finance. I served on the finance subcommittee within the council for 6 of the last 8 years while on council. So one of the things I'm most proud of is how we have allocated Measure M funds. So Measure M is a sales tax measure that was passed, and we get revenue from that every year. And we decide how to allocate those dollars. We have an oversight committee as well that helps to provide some oversight there and give us feedback as well. But the council ultimately decides how to allocate those dollars. And so in 2020, I spearheaded an effort to essentially start any new increases after 2020 to that pot of money, we'll say, essentially would go to the areas of economic development, youth, infrastructure, seniors, right? And so what we were able to do is we were able to keep and maintain the allocation to public safety, and then any increases, new increases, they went, so we were able to allocate, for example, to streets going from $75,000 a year, which doesn't do a lot to repave a road. Roads are expensive.
What $75,000 even does?
Yeah, maybe a couple
pays for the
right?
study. Yeah.
So we were able to go from $75,000 to now we're right about $1.25 million a year, right? So you can definitely do something with $1.25 million, right? When it comes to roads. When it comes to youth, going from $50,000 right to upwards of $750,000 a year, right? So those are catalysts to be able to do a lot of the things that we have been able to do in terms of opening up the Marina Center, right, and hiring more staff to focus on recreation and youth development, infrastructure, right, being able to get more roads paved. So that is why I'm very proud of that, is because that really has unleashed, our ability and potential to be able to address a lot of issues and really give back to our community in those areas such as youth development, infrastructure, and economic development.
A lot of the paving that's going on then, is that a direct reflection of this Measure M funding increase?
So Measure M definitely contributes to that, right?
Yeah.
So we have significant amount more dollars. We've also been able to save money, right, along the way. And so in this last year, we were able to allocate $12 million in road repairs, right? So just for reference, we normally have spent about $3 to maybe $4 million a year, right? So this is about 3 to 4x, right? Just in the last year. Not saying that we can do that every year, right? Because
Right.
it takes that commitment of, okay, whenever we have extra funds, we're going to set it aside and build up those dollars, right? But it is a priority for this council and previous councils to make sure that our roads are repaired, right? And it's a big problem. I mean, we have a big backlog, right?
Mhm.
So we've developed a plan, just to get into infrastructure a little bit, but we've developed a plan over 10 years. There's 10 zones across the city, and our goal is to repave each of those zones at a pace of about one per year, so that at the end of 10 years, the entire city will be repaved. And that's a really signal or a representation of the commitment that this council has around infrastructure.
Now, how do you see that playing into business attraction? Because here we are, chamber office and business organization. A lot of times people feel that money should go straight to giving grants to businesses or handouts like that. But I'm in the camp about infrastructure. So how do you see those two being connected?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, infrastructure, right? So if you take roads, for example, right, those are the roads that customers for businesses travel on,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when you have nice, pristine roads, it reflects very well on our city, and it reflects very well on or thus our businesses, right? And so I think there is a direct tie to attracting customers when you have nice amenities, nice infrastructure. Even beautification, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maintenance of our medians, right? So we've definitely made sure that we're taking care of our medians throughout the city, because that's where whether it's visitors or our residents, they travel throughout the city and they see our medians, right? The last thing we want to see is a bunch of weeds everywhere in those medians, and they're not maintained. So we've had a concerted effort to make sure that we've increased resources to address our medians, and then free up a lot of our public works staff to go and work on the on our parks, so
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have to focus on the medians themselves, right? So going back to your question, I think there's a direct tie to making sure, for example, roads and infrastructure are addressed. The other thing is water, right? So a couple weeks ago, we did the groundbreaking for over $6 million of retrofit to our water treatment plant, right? So making sure we have safe, clean water for our residents, for our businesses, that's incredibly important,
Right.
And so making sure that we focus on those things. They're not fancy things, right, by any stretch of the imagination. Right. But at the end of the day, you need to have safe and clean drinking water, right? And so it's a necessity, and it's something that we're committed to making sure that we get right.
Mm-hmm. Now, during your 2 cycles on city council, I'm sure there's been challenges that you face. What are some of the challenges that may not have been overcome yet that you hope to, if reelected, continue to tackle?
That's a great question. So, I think the economic development piece is one where we want to see that through, right? And it's one of the main reasons why I'm running for reelection again, right? So we have built up a project pipeline in terms of trying to make sure that we have projects lined up to meet our goals when it comes to economic development. And I like to talk about 2 types of projects, right, when it comes to economic development. There's revenue generators for the city, the community. There's job creators, right? Sometimes they're both, right? One project can achieve both, but other times, you might get some jobs, but it's not, on a scale that's going to make a huge dent, right? Mm-hmm. And that's okay too, right? Because the city has a need for revenues, and part of growth and growing our city when it comes to economic development is making sure that we're able to get some of those revenues. So I think we've done an excellent job on the revenue side, right, in terms of bringing in projects. So we have two hotel projects that'll bring in a total of $1 million from TOT tax, $1 million a year every year. So it's recurring revenue, which is the best kind. And so I think that helps to achieve some of the revenue. The other thing is the data center project at the technology park at the former golf course. So that represents $800 million of private investment in the city. And from an annual basis, we're estimating anywhere from maybe 3 to 5 million in annual recurring revenue, right? And so I think we can successfully say if the data center project goes through, and that hasn't come entirely before council yet, right? So it still needs to have its time in front of the council for a vote. But if it's successful, you tie 3 to 5 million plus a million in TOT from the new hotels. Now you're talking about $4 to $6 million in new revenue for the city, which I think just adds to our ability to maintain public safety by being able to hire more officers and pay for what resources that our police department may need. It can pay for more youth facilities and more programming. It can pay for more roads, definitely pay for more roads. So all that being said, I think we've done a good job on the revenue side. I think the job side, we really need to land a big company that can create 300 plus jobs, right? I think that is what is missing. We do have some opportunities with the POSCO site. The closure at the POSCO site. So those are big mass scale, right, large industrial operations where I think we have momentum right now because of the recent closure, right, and POSCO wanting to essentially sell the property.
Yeah, remove themselves from
it, right? So I think that's an opportunity for the city to really make sure that we are leading in the space and pushing as hard as we can with the current owners to say, we really want to help you get this across the finish line and really get into the new hands of a new owner that's going to come and bring a significant amount of jobs for our city. So I think that's the piece that is still missing, but I think there's opportunities, and I think there's a willingness and a drive by the council to make sure that we're seeing that to fruition.
Yeah, and that's people talk about whether it's greenhouse gases, traffic times, expanding freeways. The best way to cut down traffic is allow people to stay where they are. Like you mentioned, you live and work here. Right. I live and work here. Yes. I don't have a commute. Every day I drive over the free overpass and I look and I'm like, so thankful I don't have to do that, right? So by bringing in a large definitely gives us a huge boost. But I think the benefit to that is that business that has 300 employees is going to need catering. It's going to need supplies. It's going to have to buy fuel. Just all these things. So now it opens up opportunities for smaller businesses to kind of, not a parasitic relationship, but it's just very symbiotic that allows their existence, allows another business to flourish. So That's definitely helpful. A lot of people don't really understand city government. So you're talking about economic development and not just the acronyms and the language, but how does it work? Mayor, why can't you just go and get us this? Why can't you just go to the store and pick us up a new store? How does it work? So what is something you wish the average resident of Pittsburgh understood about city governance?
Right. Well, I mean, and fundamentals, right, is we don't own the property, right? Usually, we'll say 80% of the time we don't own the property.
Right.
There are some instances where we do, and the data center is one example of that, and I can talk more about that. But usually we don't. Clearly property owners have property rights, right? And so they can decide.
Still for a little bit.
and so they can decide what they do with their property. They can sit on it. They can for decades, right? They can sell it. They can do something with it in terms of lease it, right? So our role as a city isn't the decision maker in terms of we get to decide what comes here, right? What opportunities come here. We don't get to decide that. What we get to decide, though, is this use in conformance with the zoning laws that we have within our city? We can establish that. So if we want an industrial business in our industrial area, we've zoned that industrial. And so if a residential development wants to come in, right, they can't just come in and set up shop, right? So that is part of our role on the I'll call the formal side of it. The informal piece of it is, we are a convener, right? So a lot of times we get leads from even the state, like GoBiz, right? So it's a state organization that will essentially funnel leads. So companies will come to that organization and say, hey, we're looking for this type of site, industrial, zone industrial, with access to water, with access to rail, right? And so then they go and they have a database, and then they reach out to cities like us and say, hey, are you interested in helping this person connect with the landowner And so our role really is to take those leads, for example, connect them with the landowner. So having a good relationship with the landowner is important because they'll take your calls and give some consideration to those leads, right? So that is on the informal side, kind of what we can do. And we've actually, so in 2016 when I came in, there wasn't a dedicated economic development, I'll call it, department within the city, right? There were efforts, but there wasn't like a fully dedicated director, and there wasn't a fully dedicated staff, any staff members allocated to that. So we have since addressed that, and now there is a director and a manager that reports to that director that works in this space, right? And not only on the small business side, but the larger business side as well. So there's the informal piece, right, where we can act as conveners, and then there's the formal piece, right, where we can create the zoning laws that help to bring certain types of businesses. I think the final piece, right, is we need to get our fundamentals right as a city, right? So public safety, infrastructure, right? So any business, large business that is going to set up wants to know, right, that if their employees decide to live in that community, that it's a safe community, that it's a healthy community, that the roads are nice, right? So that's another piece of how we can attract businesses, is making sure that we have our fundamentals in order, meaning our public safety is strong and our infrastructure is addressed.
So with public safety, that definitely is. It seems like it's a topic every election. I mean, it's definitely a main point, and it's becoming more and more important every year. What do you feel Pittsburgh is doing right when it comes to public safety? And then, if reelected, what would you like to do to make things? Because I would say that public safety wise, we're doing a good job. Like, I don't think we're in this dire strait like maybe neighboring cities are. But we're in a good spot, but there's always room for improvement. So what do you think we're doing well? And then if you're reelected, what would you like to see enacted to make it even better?
No, I absolutely agree. I am very proud of our police department. I'm very proud of the gains that we have made in public safety. And I think we're in such a good spot, and I say this a lot, right, where we can actually be in a mode to invest in other areas like youth, like infrastructure, like economic development, because we've invested so much already over the course of, let's say 2 to 3 decades, right? Like just so much in trying to improve our public safety, that we're in a stage right now where it's about making sure that we're maintaining those improvements and those gains, and not letting it slip, right? And so again, I'm very proud of the progress that we have made, and I believe that we're a safe community in Pittsburgh, and I think our community should be very proud of that, and proud of the significant efforts that we have made as a community, including our police department. Going forward, right, so of course nothing's perfect, and as you alluded, right, so there's always room for improvement. I think it's really about making sure that we're keeping up with tools, right, that allow our police department to be so effective, right? So our camera network, for example, right, that's one good example. It's great technology, and fantastic technology, and it allows us to be very effective at solving crimes, but it is expensive, right? And storing the footage and even maintaining the network. And we don't just have like 20 cameras throughout the city. There's hundreds throughout the city. I won't say the exact number, but there's hundreds throughout the city, right? And so I think that is representative of a big investment that we've made. And so what I'd like to see moving forward is just making sure that that is maintained and sustained, meaning we're able to allocate dollars to make sure that we're upgrading anything that needs to be upgraded, and making sure that from a cost standpoint, we're looking at the best technology available to make sure that cost of ownership is something we need to look at as well. Right?
You look at, there's a new iPhone every year. Why wouldn't there be new cameras and new technology every so many years? I mean, it's the fact that I remember when they put the cameras out on Highway 4 to say that, these cameras are reading every license plate that zips down the freeway at 80 miles an hour. It's like, well, that's mind-boggling. Well, we have that in other parts of the town now too. So it is definitely important to keep that investment. Now, are there other components? Because we hear public safety and we go right to the police department, and they play a huge role in that. But are there other, when you think of public safety, are there other facets that play into that for you, or is that law enforcement is?
No, absolutely not. I think so. Youth development, right, and it's why we have focused so much on it, right? Is because that is a big component, right? If you are able to provide outlets for your youth, right, to be constructive, right, and whether it's youth centers, right, and programming after school, before school, after school, that is a huge investment in public safety, right, and it's why we've reopened our Marina Center, right, which I just hear great things about it. Every time I bring up the Marina Center, anybody who has kids, right, even in just that immediate neighborhood, they always say, like, I always drive by and there's something going on. And
I was there the other night with my whole family they had movie night. So
and so those are kind of those enriching opportunities for our youth to stay engaged and stay out of trouble, right? And I think that's an investment in public safety that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to hire a police, send dollars to hire a police officer, but it's rather we're going to invest in our youth, and that can also pay dividends, right?
Sure.
It's another method of improving public safety, right? And so that's one strong one that we definitely focus on. The other one is landscape and lighting. I'll focus on the lighting piece. So we have upgraded our lighting in various areas throughout the city to improve the lighting in those areas. So one area specifically that comes to mind is Railroad and West Leland, right? So that piece, you've seen a string of poles that have gone
like
up.
Daytime at night.
And it's like it is. And so you drive through there and you can see everything, right? So those are the kind of investments also from an infrastructure side that we have made that help with public safety. The other thing is medians. So Crestview, we've launched projects to kind of it's a wide street, right? And so there's a lot of donuts that happen. There's a lot of illegal driving that happens. So by creating medians, right, or traffic circles, we try to break up the openness so that cars slow down, and two, that there's less of a tendency for folks to feel like they can just go and do donuts safely, right?
Yeah.
So I think those kind of investments we've also made. The flashing beacon lights, we've installed more than a handful, right? I think maybe up to 12, if I'm not mistaken, throughout the city near schools, right? So we've tried to really focus our investments there as well. So it all falls under the tent of public safety. So you're absolutely right. It's not just talking about the police department, but there's other facets to it as well.
All right, lightning round. 49ers, Raiders. One word answer.
Yeah. So I don't watch a lot of football, but I'll say 49ers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite restaurant in town?
That's a hard one.
You can pick a couple.
Yeah. So my wife and I love the breakfast sandwiches at Lumpy's.
Oh.
So
what kind of meat?
So they used to have jalapeno bacon.
Exactly.
That was my favorite. But I know they've not had it recently, so I'll just get regular bacon.
Yeah. Okay. Best place to grab a dessert type item in town for you?
Dessert type item. Okay, so I grew up going to the Flor de Mexico, and so when it came back, I was thrilled, and so I love going there.
Imagine having your office next door to it. It's very dangerous.
So that's definitely would be my favorite.
What's the favorite item there?
So I don't know what the type of bread, so what it's called, but it's like kind of this shaped, and then it has a lot of sugar on it.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So, and that is by far my
Yeah,
favorite.
they Mark has some good treats there for sure. Okay, favorite park?
Favorite park. Let's see.
Or one that you're most proud of. Let's put it that way. Because I don't spend a lot of time in parks either. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I grew up around, like, Buchanan Park was, like, the thing when I was growing up. But what I would say is, what I'm really proud of is like we've made some investments in some parks like Oak Hills Park, right? So they didn't have a restroom for that park, right? And so we've added a restroom there.
Not just a restroom.
Yeah, probably the most sophisticated.
Yeah. Explain this restroom there.
Yeah, so it is an automated restroom where the doors you push a button, or you can even, I think, wave your hand over it, and the door automatically opens. You go in, you use the restroom. There's a countdown timer if you're in there too long, and then it'll open. It gives you a warning, but it'll open the door slightly.
Once your time is squirting water at you, or I didn't realize they had a countdown timer.
Yeah, so there is a timer, so people don't just stay in there, right? And that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons why we went with this is there's vandalism, in our restrooms, and so we went with this technology to try to curb that. And then it self-cleans. So after
cleans the restroom, not cleans you.
Yeah, okay. So it cleans the restroom every few cycles that it's used. It has its own cleaning protocol, and it'll go ahead and clean that. So if you haven't visited, they're really it's something to see. So go down to Oak Hills Park and look at those. We're also going to install them in the marina. So
nice.
We're going to use that same technology at the marina as we're redoing a lot of the parking lot and some of the facilities there. The restrooms will be that technology as well.
Awesome. So you and I both grew up here, and we always hear people talk poorly about our community. What those groups or individuals that just can't seem to think that Pittsburg can be awesome and phenomenal, what's your message to them, as not just only as a candidate but as city mayor?
I mean, listen, I am a strong believer that currently Pittsburg is thriving, right? I think, I was raised here, I've seen this city, for the last 33 years, right? And I will say that probably no other moment in time can I say that Pittsburgh is really thriving, and it's going in the right direction. And it's not because of it's not because of me, it's not because of council, it is our community has decided, right, that one, we are going to be a safe community, that we're going to have a beautiful city, right? So well-maintained roads, well-maintained, right? So, and it's through the community's desire, right, to be proud of our community that we have been able to accomplish a lot of these things, right? So, to anybody that says, negative things about Pittsburgh, spend a day here, right? Talk to residents that actually live here. And you'll get the real story about how wonderful the city is, how beautiful it is, and how welcoming the residents are here. I'm proud to live here. I'm hoping I can raise my family here one day, but it's such a beautiful city that I hope others can enjoy and hopefully can learn more about it if they actually spend some time here.
Yeah, absolutely, not just read what's on billboards. So I want to thank you for your time. I know it's late in the evening, you're coming off of work, but making the time for this interview. I think it's important for people to not just see a mailer or whatever, but actually learn a little bit more. We now know your favorite dessert, your preference for teams, even though so do you have a sport event that you're interested in, or
no, I'm not too interested in sport events.
Spreadsheet Olympics, huh?
Yeah, spreadsheet. You throw a spreadsheet at me, I'm definitely entertained for a while.
Awesome. But I think people need to know who their elected officials really are, and we hope that this format is a way to at least open the window a little bit more. So we want to thank you for your time, but since you're running for re-election, we give you the opportunity to give closing comments to those voters that maybe are still on the fence. They maybe didn't vote for you the last two times, but now they have an opportunity now to reach out to them.
Absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity. I absolutely agree that forums like this, or even conversations where voters can learn about their candidates, is critically important to our democracy and to our elections. So thank you for all the work that you do in that space. So yeah, I'll close by just saying, very honored for the opportunity to serve this community for the past 8 years. I think our results speak for themselves, right, in terms of what we've been able to do in maintaining public safety, in improving infrastructure across the city, in economic development projects that we've been able to bring forward and get started in the city. and in terms of youth development and investment by opening up our Marina Center. We have a new state-of-the-art indoor multi-court facility, basketball gym that's going to be, it's already started construction, it'll be open next year. We have a Sprouts grocery store that's opening here pretty shortly over in the San Marco area. So we have a lot of positive things going for us in our city, and I hope I can count on your vote on November 5th to continue that momentum forward for years to come. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Again, this is our series here at the Pittsburgh Chamber of Commerce. We're interviewing candidates that are running for, we've done city council and also for District 5 county supervisor. There's also the Measure P item that's in the ballot for Pittsburgh residents. So please, regardless of how you want to vote, just vote. It's November 5th. Ballots have already been mailed. So take this opportunity to learn a little bit more about the candidates and the measures and put your voice out there and be involved in the process. So again,